1 week out of October, and here we are talking about non-horror movies. This seems weird, but here we go. This video, we're talking about the Eternals. What's going on? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our content, we are a nonprofit that creates content like what you're watching right now to educate and engage individuals like yourself on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name is Captain Nostalgia. I have the privilege of being both a writer, podcaster here, among many other hats that I wear, and I am super excited to be talking to you guys about Eternals. I'm not gonna lie, I have had superhero fatigue for quite some time. It took me a lot of weeks to get into the right headspace, to get excited for Zack Snyder's Justice League earlier this year. Also, you can also check out our episodes on not just the Zack Snyder's Justice League, but the entire DCEU leading up to that. And so when Marvel started to announce a lot of their big screen revivals coming back into phase 4 with Black Widow and Shang-Chi, I was kind of not very excited about it. However, the Eternals is a completely different story because I absolutely adore Chloe Zhao. I loved Nomadland earlier this year, and so I was really curious to see what she could do with a big property like the Eternals. And that is not to mention that Eternals, for me, I know nothing about them, and my favorite MCU film, I literally knew nothing about any of those characters, and it ended up being one of the best experiences I've ever had with a Marvel movie, and I was anticipating the same for this. But before I give my thoughts, let's talk about what the synopsis is for this movie. So Eternals tells the story of a group of extraterrestrial beings, I guess. Beings, one group that's largely hunting another group. That's literally as vague as I can get it without getting into spoilers, and the movie is a lot more detailed than just the sentence that I just talked about here. But I promise you, the less that you know about this particular movie, the better it's going to be for you. Right out the gate, I'm going to say that this is the boldest Marvel movie that we have seen in a long time. I know that you can point to movies like Infinity War and Endgame both being a very ambitious project to tackle, but I'm going to say that in terms of origin stories, this is the boldest Marvel has ever gotten. However, it's also the blandest that Marvel has ever gone. I make the latter statement because this is a 2-hour and almost 50-minute movie where you can definitely feel a lot of that time sometimes. Part of it comes from the way its storytelling structure is telling it. Basically, the core of this story is we have to get the band back together and reunite and kind of take down this big bad threat, and that's kind of the through line that connects all of these. But time and the origins of these characters are told non-linear, so you're constantly going back from back in time to kind of see these large events of the MCU play out, and then at the same time you're also getting to see this modern day presence as well. And that's all good and fine, but the flashback sequences feel like they stay in the past just a little too long, as they're purposely trying to kind of push that runtime a little bit longer. Honestly, this feels like the closest thing to Snyder Cut that we've ever actually gotten on the big screen. I applaud Marvel for sticking with Zal's vision for what this movie could be, what the story was going to be. But I'm also going to say that you probably didn't need to have scenes as long as you did necessarily have to have them in here. And even for as bold as this film tries to be, for as great of ideas as it does, and this is probably one of the deepest Marvel films that we've ever gotten as well. And in spite of all of that, what's really sad to say about this movie is that it still falls into a lot of those Marvel signature formulas and traps. The antagonist element is a perfect example of that. The antagonist in this, it boils down to basically being, they're called the deviants, and while they do develop a little bit further into it, they just kind of feel like a very bland excuse for these characters to reunite one last time. And to say that some of the villain sequences in this movie are a chore to get through would be a massive understatement. Honestly, I would probably say that the Deviants are among some of the worst villains the MCU has ever had, placing them right beneath Whiplash and the Dark Elves. But there's enough stuff in here to keep you interested and invested. And as a friend of mine put it, this plants a lot of great seeds for what we're going to see in the MCU moving forward. The visuals of this movie are absolutely stunning. The performances are just absolutely jaw-droppingly amazing. Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Kumail Nanjiani. Also, I apologize if I pronounced that last name wrong. I have never been able to properly pronounce his name. Brian Tyree Henry, Salma Hayek, and my personal favorite, Angelina Jolie. All of that to say is that there is not one bad performance at all in Eternals. Even some of the surprises that we get throughout the film and even in the post-credits sequences, again, never ever let you down. The performances are foundational and rock solid. So before I head into our Rorschach rating scale, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a mental health moment, which we're actually going to be expanding upon in our upcoming episode on the movie. As I previously mentioned in this review, this is spoiler free. If you guys want to hear our spoiler filled reviews, we are working on an episode that will drop at some point next week. So make sure you guys check that out wherever you guys get podcasts. Just simply search Victims and Villains or check the links in the descriptions. But if you're new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health and or an act of encouragement and we are pulling from the source of which we are reviewing. And in this one, this one's obvious. We're going to be talking about Angelina Jolie's Athena. One of the reasons why this character is my favorite from the film is because of her mental health arc throughout the course of this. Basically, to put it bluntly, she suffers from a disease which basically makes her kind of forget stuff every once in a while. And so she is constantly trying to remember who she is. Don Lee plays a man by the name of Gilgash in this. Gilgash and Athena basically have a relationship where he's watching over her and he is basically keeping her grounded in who she is. And while I'm definitely going to expand upon Athena's mental health arc in our episode, I just want to encourage anyone watching this right now that if you don't have that one person or perhaps even group of people that can encourage you and ground you in your identity and who you are, it's important. It's massively important to remember that, because sometimes that makes all the difference between life and death. And I'm gonna be real with you guys for a minute. When I was younger, I had actually contemplated suicide, and the one thing that kept me here was actually the group of people that I had in my corner, not just them, but also my family. And so I just want to encourage anyone listening, if you or someone you know is struggling, please consider the resources in the descriptions and understand the importance and value of community to your mental health. All right, well, let's put this one through our Rorschach rating scale on a scale of 0 to 5. I'm going to go ahead and give Eternals a 3 out of 5. If you guys have seen Eternals, make sure that you guys comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about this movie. Let me know where it ranks in the MCU for you guys. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you kind of siding with the critics? Or are you thinking that this could be the best MCU film we've gotten so far? Let me know in the descriptions below. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button and have a great night. And once again, if you or someone you know is struggling, please consider with depression, mental health, or suicide, consider the resources in our descriptions below. Have a good night, guys.